Welcome to Weasel Digital, and today we're continuing our guides for new players to Star Wars Squadrons, and even experienced players too. Today we're going to be looking at the U-Wing gunship, the Rebel or New Republic support ship. I have to acknowledge the fact that I originally really underestimated this ship. So much so that in my first set of guides I ever made for this game, I didn't even make guides for the support ships. It wasn't until my third set of guides that I even touched on the support ships. That's how much I didn't like them. I rarely play that kind of support type role in games. But for that matter, I rarely play a glass cannon type role, and that's what I actually enjoy the most in this game. So I've been coming around to the support ships, and there's actually some really cool things you can do with these ships. And now that I've actually given them the time of day to really dig into them, there's some cool things you can do. There's some really good builds, some ways that you can play these things very effectively. And they shouldn't be seen as less than other ships. Their main cannon options are a little bit weak compared to some others, but then again, not that much. I mean, their base damage from their main regular standard cannon isn't that much less than the X-wing or the Y-wing's main cannon. So they're not bad in combat, and they have a lot of interesting roles they can play. So one that I've been playing recently in fleet battles is something that I call the Defender. And the Defender is built specifically to defend the capital ships. So our primary weapon is our ion cannon. And your role here is you're gonna drop your turrets, and then you're gonna just shoot at any incoming bombers. You're gonna disable them with those ion cannons. You're going to shut down their attack runs. Disabling enemy ships with those ion cannons when they're doing attack runs, they start drifting dead in space. It makes them easy targets for your allies, easy target for yourself, easy target for your capital ship. More importantly, though, is it shuts down their attack runs. They've lined up in a specific position to hit a specific target. You've now disabled them. They're not going to have their missile locks anymore. They're not going to be set up. If they have the really powerful weapons that have minimum range, they're not even going to have time to get those lined up and locked again. So this really does wonders for defending your ship. Now for our auxiliaries, we're going with the rocket turret and the turret mine. What you're going to do with these is defend key points or just your entire ship as a whole. You can stick these out in front of the frigates. You can stick them in front of the MC-75. If your MC-75 loses one of the shield generators, then stick these out next to the other shield generator. Keep in mind that your ships do slowly move ahead, so put them out a little bit ahead of your intended target. Not much, but a little bit. Although if you can get them targeted just within the shield bubble of what you're trying to defend, that will keep your turrets alive a little bit better. So the rocket turret is a deployable anti-material turret. It targets enemy deployable subsystems, capital ships, missiles. This is a missile defense system when you're playing defense. So you stick this in front of your MC-75 or in front of a shield generator, and incoming missiles are going to get shot down by the rocket turret. The turret mine just deploys a turret that does damage to any nearby ships. So that turret mine will shoot down AIs, it'll shoot down players, it'll do damage to them, it'll deter them from making attacks, it'll help kill them. It's two nice defensive systems that you can put in front of something that you want to defend, and then you can do your own business. So you're actually playing two roles then. You're able to defend in two different ways. I like to go with the light hull on this, so I have the extra maneuverability to target whatever incoming targets I need to hit. Go with the standard shields on this, and I go with the micro thrust engine again for that added maneuverability. I don't need to be super fast because I'm staying around a ship I'm defending. I'm going to be shooting at guys that are coming in from 1,000 meters away. I'm not chasing anybody down. That's not my role. So all in all, this is a great defensive ship when it comes to fleet battles. You're going to stop a lot of what's happening. Also, one thing to always keep in mind if you're playing this role with this ship and you see incoming enemy missiles, that's your primary target. Don't worry about their ships. Shoot down those missiles because those missiles will do a lot of damage, and they're more important to shoot those down and protect your ship. One thing I do want to talk about here with the hull, deflector, and engines on this ship. The hull, shields, and engines for the U-Wing, for the support ship, are less important to your builds than they are in other ships. In other ships like your A-Wing, your Y-Wing, your X-Wing, the hull, the shields, the engine you're running is instrumental to the build. It is helping to amplify the main purpose of your build. That is less the case in the U-Wing because the U-Wing is playing a support role, not necessarily a dominant combat role. So if you want to adjust the hull, shields, and engines on any of these just due to comfort level, not only is that always okay, but it's even more okay here. If you're like, ooh, I don't want to lose that health, or oh, I don't want to lose that speed, absolutely switch those out. It's not going to change the overall role or the effectiveness of your ship. For the U-Wing, the hull, shields, and engines is more of a personal preference than an actual functioning difference in how you're going to play that ship. So definitely play around with those, change those up for your comfort level. For the hull, shields, and engines for this build, the Defender, this is what I like so that I can keep my ions on target on those incoming ships. So the goal here, drop those mines in a defensive manner. Target ships, take them out with the ion cannons, refresh your turrets whenever your cooldown is off, and just keep doing that on defense. You'll be surprised at how incredibly effective it is at disrupting the enemy's attack on your ships. The next one I want to talk about is what I call, I should go back here. With my build, of course, speed and acceleration a little bit reduced. Maneuverability is very high, like some of the best maneuverability in the game, so easy to target. Max hull is reduced a little bit, but that's not much. So the next build we're going to look at is our supporter build. And this is good in both fleet battles and dogfights. The one difference I would make on it is probably the deflector when it comes to this role. Depending on if I'm in fleet battles or dogfights, I would switch up how I have that deflector on this one. So, with this ship, my role is not to do combat. My role is to support other people. So for our primary weapon, we're going ion cannon. For our left auxiliary, we're doing supply droid, so we can drop those supply points out there to repair and rearm my allies. For our other auxiliary, we're going with tactical shield. This gives a 500-point shield on the targeted ally. 15-second cooldown to use it again. 10 chances to use it. That supply droid, you have 6 uses of that. It sits out there for 60 seconds when you shoot it out there, so it will stay there for a good long time. Clearly here, we're repairing, we're reshielding our allies. I like the Seeker warheads here. I go with the standard hull, standard engines on this. Fortified deflector I use in fleet battles. For dogfights, I would probably go with the standard deflector because you're going to be in the mix of it more often. You're going to have less chances to regen those shields. In fleet battles, the fortified deflector works well because you're staying out of the battle. So to explain how to use this in both cases, in a dogfight, you're going to be in the mix of things. You're going to be locking on to 1 or 2 of your allies. You're going to be staying in a group, staying in a pack, following them around. You're going to be throwing shields on them when you can, when your shield is depleted. You're going to be throwing out repairs anytime they're getting hit, they're in combat, you're going to get that repair out there so that they can pick that up. Stick with someone. Find a really good pilot on your team. Follow them. Stick to them like glue. Stick to them like flies on you know what. That is going to be your main thing. Find someone to work with. When I'm playing my glass cannon A-Wing, having a U-Wing that throws me support, I'm sticking with that guy. He is my new best friend, and I'm going to make sure no one shoots him down. His health is primary over my own health in that kind of role. I'm going to do everything I can to keep that guy alive because he's thrown me extra shields. He's thrown me repairs and helping me rearm my missiles. So find a friend that you can stick with, and that guy should, if he's smart, help keep you alive too. And you're going to have a really effective battle that way. In dogfights, you could switch this out from the ion cannon to the standard cannon. That's not a bad idea. That way you can help whoever you're with. Instead of disabling targets, you can just do damage and help knock them out. Really helpful either way, whether you're disabling them or knocking them out. If the guy that you're teamed up with is kind of in a tail-chasing dogfight kind of situation, being able to throw some damage in, help them out is a good idea. So in dogfights, you're going to be in the mix. You're going to find that person. Now in fleet battles, you're going to be playing this on offense by kind of standing back. What you want to do is be between your ships and the enemy ships, kind of in that no man's land out there, on offense. So your bombers, your players, your allies are making their offensive runs, are doing their business out there. When they have to flee because they're hurting or they're out of ammo, you are the closest source for help. You're going to shield them up, you're going to repair them, you're going to rearm them so that they can turn around quicker and get back into combat. You have to kind of know the battlefield. There's safety zones where when you're on offense, if the enemy gets too far onto your side, they start taking heavy damage. You want to be right there on that kind of border so that if they come after you, you can pull back. And that's why we have the ion cannons on this build, because those guys coming in, you can hit them with the ion cannons, disable them. You can retreat to your frigates or to your capital ship for safety. On defense, you're going to be in the mix a little bit more. You're going to be finding your defenders. You're going to be throwing them shields. You're going to be throwing them your repair modules so that they can stay in the mix. And then you're going to be laying down ion cannon fire to any incoming attackers, trying to disable them so that your allies can do better. So that's your real supporter type guy. You're not the one that's going to be making the kills. You're going to be helping everyone else make those kills. The third build is what I call the disabler. And this can be used in both, but is just more effective in dogfight. In fleet battles, things are a little too chaotic for this to really be super effective. But in dogfights, it's really great. It's really effective. It's really annoying if you're playing against it. So we're going to be going with our standard laser cannons just so we can lay down some damage. We're going to be going with our auxiliary weapon of the tractor beam. Tractor beam does require a lock, and it has a long lock-on time. But then for the next 7.5 seconds, you're going to be slowing down whoever you targeted with this thing. And it's going to make it really easy for you to put damage on that target. And it's really annoying to be locked in one of these tractor beams when it's not the capital ship doing it. Your right auxiliary is going to be the ion missile. 6,000 ion damage, that's going to strip any shields and shut down any ship that it hits. It's medium homing, so it's not the best in the homing, but they're really nice. They typically aren't going to get knocked down by countermeasures, so they're very effective. Once you've shut them down with your ion missiles, you hit them with the standard laser cannon. Once you lock someone with the tractor beam, you hit them with the standard laser cannon. If you're near any allies, they're going to be able to help you out in both situations. Countermeasures, I'm going with the Seekers. And this one is a pure preference. You know, what kind of hull do you want? What kind of standard deflector do you want? What kind of engine do you want? because you're going to be using the tractor beam and the ion missile to shut down your targets. So do you want to be a little bit bulkier so you can take more hits but less maneuverable? That's probably fine because the targets you're shooting at aren't going to be moving. If you still prefer to be able to dogfight, then you're going to go with, your light hull and your micro thrust engines. But that's up to you. Now, if you really want to mess with the enemy team, you can go with a pure disabler and swap out for the ion cannons. But this does require more work with a team. And this leads you even more into the dogfighting scenario where you're going to be locking down enemy units so that your team can move in and just finish them off. Next up, I like to give a shield breaker build to each of the ships as well as I can. And in some cases, they're great. In other cases, like the interceptors, they're okay. The U-Wing is one of the better ones, surprisingly. Being that it's not a bomber, it makes a great shield breaker. It can actually put out more damage over time than an X-Wing shield breaker or any of the bombers, really, just due to the amount of weaponry it carries. So clearly we're going to go with our ion cannon. High ion DPS, good ammo capacity. You're going to be able to do a lot of ion damage just with your blasters. Left auxiliary, we're going with ion torpedo, 24,000 damage. Now that is ion damage, but that's incredibly effective. This locks on starting at 1,500 meters. You need to fire it before you get to 500 meters. It's best to fire it under 600 because that gives the enemy less time to react to it. It does have a very long cooldown of 25 seconds and a fairly long lock-on time of 3 seconds. But the ammo capacity in this case is 3. That is really nice. If we go over here and we look at the same weapon on our X-Wing, we can see the ammo capacity is 1. So you have 2 extra shots. That's almost 50,000 more shield damage. So this ion torpedo here with 3 shots is incredible. You can strip a lot of shields with this build. If you're going in against their light cruisers, firing both one ion torpedo and one missile, bugging out and heading towards that other one. Come back to your side, make a long arc around, and then target the other one. You can take down the shields on both ships real quick this way. So we have our ion torpedo. Then we have our ion missile. The ion missile only does 6,000 ion damage compared to the 24, but together that's 30,000, which is huge. Lock-on time is faster, does have that long lock-on range, but again, you're going to be waiting until you get in around 500 to 600 before you fire that off. Cooldown's pretty long at 20 seconds. The torpedo's 25, so you're going to be making an attack, bugging out, then making a second attack run with them. 6 of these, and you can use these against fighters too if you need to. The torpedo you only want to use against the capital ships. Again, we're going to go with our Seeker warheads. This is another one where you can kind of decide, especially for hull and engines. There isn't anything that's a speed boost. When I'm doing shield breakers, I like to have speed so I can get to and disable the shields on a ship before the rest of my allies get there. There isn't any speed boost for this ship. So, standard hull is fine, standard engine's fine. You can tweak those as you see fit. Just don't lower your speed. For shields, I'd go with the fortified deflector. It gives you a little more defense because you have more shields. The shield regen is slower. But what you're going to be doing is making an attack run, pulling out. You have time to recharge those shields before you make your next attack run. So fortified deflector is okay. It keeps you alive a little bit longer, especially if anyone engages with you. So that's a shield breaker. Very, very effective against shields. If you can predict when your team is going to flip the switch to offense and you can be in this ready to go, you can really tip the scales because you can strip those shields. Your allies are making direct attacks against those hulls. It's very, very effective. Next up is kind of a fun little build. It's the Tactical Scrapper. The Tactical Scrapper is mainly for dogfighting. However, it can be used in fleet battles. I just don't like it there as much because things are a little more chaotic. It is really good on offense for fleet battles, though. When your team is making bombing runs, especially against the Star Destroyer, the Squadron Mask can be great. So let's look into this build here, the Tactical Scrapper. We're going to go with our standard laser cannons. You can swap that out if you want for the ions, but it's not a really big deal. You're not going to be doing a ton of damage anyways. Standard laser cannon's fine. Left auxiliary, we're going with our Squadron Mask. The Squadron Mask temporarily hides all nearby allies from enemy radar. This helps your team ambush enemies and retreat safely. It's got a 10-second duration. It affects everyone within 750 meters of you. And it's got a 20-second cooldown, which is kind of long, but there's no ammo, so you can keep doing it. The one big downside to this is it does not hide you. So if you're in a little squad formation, there's 5 of you, and you pop this, your allies for 10 seconds are not going to be able to be targeted by the enemy. They're not going to have missiles shot at them. It's going to be harder to lead them and react to them and find them on radar. But you're going to show up. And since you're the only target that shows up on radar and that they can target, chances are you're going to take a lot of heat. So you got to keep that in mind. The other auxiliary, we're going with the target beacons. These are also pretty interesting. When you hit the enemy with these targeting beacons, the incoming damage multiplier is increased by 130%. So you're doing 30% more damage to anyone that's affected by the targeting beacons. It lasts for 20 seconds, can hit up to 4 targets, has a very long lock-on range of 1,250 meters, and a 30-second cooldown. So again, a pretty long cooldown, but again, no ammo. So you can use this multiple times. So the point of this build is you're going to go in with your team. When your team starts engaging the enemy, you pop your Squadron Mask. Your squad's not going to get targeted. They're not going to have missile shot at them. They're not going to get targeted. It's going to be hard to lead them. It's going to be hard to see where they're at. They're going to be free to make attacks on the enemy, who's going to be solely focused on you. You're also going to drop the targeting beacons, which is going to increase the damage to the marked targets. It's easier for your allies to lock onto them. They're going to do bonus damage. It's just great. You're going to amplify the damage of your entire team while keeping them safe. You can alternate these. I like to use them at the same time when they're in some kind of big mess. At the start of dogfight battles, when you're getting out there and just starting that battle and there's a big kind of melee going on, popping both of those really helps your team out. Anytime a bunch of enemies engage with a couple of your guys, this can really even out those odds. Also very good for breaking those situations in Zavian Abyss and Yavin when one team has a lock on the center. If you can use the Squadron Mask and targeting beacons on maybe 2 of your allies and a couple of them, you might be able to break that situation where they have that hold that is dominating the map. Now, I like to use the light hull and the micro thrust engine along with the standard deflector on this. And the reason I do that is I want to be able to do a lot of boosts. I want to be very maneuverable. I want to be jetting around. I want to be doing lots of boost, drift, turn type stuff. And the reason for that is that Squadron Mask. When I pop Squadron Mask, again, I'm the only guy that's going to be on radar, and so there's going to be a lot of people targeting me. So once I do that, it's time to start boost drifting all over. So you're going to be keeping your power to engines almost all the time here. You pop those 2 things, and then you just start boost drifting around to keep yourself safe so that when the enemy does try to target you, you're moving in a weird way that is hard for them to target, follow, and attack you. Allowing your allies more time then to react to these guys that are all now focusing on you. This is a very effective one in dogfights. It's pretty effective offensively when you're making bombing runs, and fleet battles also. Now the next build, I don't have another spot to do this build, so we're going to cover up our tactical scrapper. This is our area denial build. So for this one, I like to go ions, although going with the standard laser cannon is not a bad idea. We're going to go with our turret mine.
You know how to pick 'em.
We're going to go with the seeker mine. I suggest the seeker warheads here. However, the particle burst chaff cloud thing is an okay option here, and I can totally see why people would use it. For our hull, I'm going to go with the light hull, I'm going to go with the standard deflector, and I'm going to go with the micro thrust engine. The reason I'm doing these is I want to be able to stay in a tight location. So that high maneuverability allows me to turn very sharply and stay in an area that I'm comfortable with. The entire purpose of this is you're going to drop that turret mine and the seeker mine fairly close to each other. And then you're going to live in that same area. So if they're spread out a little bit, you're going to be right between them. Or if you can keep them close to each other, you don't want them right on top of each other, but pretty close. And then you're going to be hanging out in that area. When people come in to fight you, they're going to be getting shot at by your turret mines. You're going to be trying to disable them with the ion cannon. And if you do disable them with the ion cannon, your turret mine's going to help do damage to them. If you can disable them with that ion cannon and they can float into your seeker mine range, the seeker mine is going to help finish them off. If they're focusing on you, they're not focusing on your turret mine or your seeker mine. If they're focusing on your turret mine or your seeker mine, they're not focusing on you and your other mine. So there's just a lot of things going on, and for a lot of players, it's overwhelming. So when you're coming into a battle scenario in that dogfighting type mode, you're going to be coming into that, you're going to drop both of your mines, and you're going to stay in that area. Anybody that's coming to engage you is now going to have to deal with lots of different things all at once. A lot of times I've seen people just totally avoid this player. They just get tired of trying to engage with this player, because if they're shooting at the player, then the turret mine's shooting at them, the player's shooting at them, the seeker mine seeks them. It's just really highly annoying to go against this type of a build. Again, we want that high maneuverability so we can stay focused there. But again, you can change this as you need. It's not the most dependent part of this. And you can see, because we're staying in that tight formation, if you go with the particle burst, that can help protect both your mines too, and you're not going to be wandering far away from it, so it may be helpful. But again, I like the seeker warheads. I just find them all around more dependable. This doesn't have much of a fleet battle build, except maybe on defense. You could use this as a defensive build to protect your capital ships with the seeker mine and the turret mine and your ion cannons. However, in that case, I would probably swap out my hull and engine for a little bit different buildup. So that's an area denial build. Helps lock down an area and creates this kind of protective bubble around you where no one really wants to come and engage you, and you can do whatever you need to do then. So a lot of good different builds there. And really, with the different support functions that you can play, there's a lot of ways you can tweak these a little bit. Maybe for your supporter, you find that you really like putting shields out there, but no one ever goes through your repairs, and so you drop the repairs and go with, the Squadron Mask or the targeting beacon or something like that. There's lots of different ways you can tweak these and make them really interesting. But again, just for a quick recap, we have our Defender. The Defender is going to be keeping those capital ships alive using ion weapons, using the turret mines. You have your supporter that's there to support the rest of your team with repairs, with refitting them with refilling their ammunition, putting shields on them, that kind of stuff. You have your disabler. He's going in with those ion missiles, those tractor beams, just locking down individual enemies, finishing them off. You have your shield breaker, which can do a ridiculous amount of shield damage to those capital ships. Then you have the tactical scrapper with the squad mask and the targeting beacon, doing a really interesting play in those dogfights to make it so your team disappears and their team gets extra damage. And then there's our area denial, where you just kind of pop up a sphere of influence that you're going to defend, and anyone that comes close to you is going to have to deal with mines, with turret mines, with your ion blasters, and they're not going to want to do that. So all around, this U-wing gunship is actually pretty darn effective. You're not stuck in I'm just going to heal and shield my allies. There's a lot of other ways that you can, force multiply your team by playing a support role. And there's also ways that you can just be an outright offensive nightmare in this thing when you're doing like that area denial build or the disabler build. Those are brutal just to face one-on-one anyways. Tactical scrapper and your supporter are both great support roles. That defender build is amazingly effective in fleet battles. And so is that shield breaker role. And that's more of an offensive role that really helps your team out by just taking those shields down. So all around, this U-wing is a great ship. I really do appreciate it. I really find it's got a lot to offer in this game. And it shouldn't be overlooked, which is a mistake I made when I started playing this game. So with that, I hope you feel a little more comfortable with the U-wing. I hope you can make use of some of these builds. I look forward to seeing you in battle. And if you're ever flying one of these U-wings and you're supporting me in my A-wing, I'm going to have your back, because I like seeing really good support ships out there. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.